I am Cameron, and I grew raised in the shadow of a star. Lily was my older sister and that star. People always crowded our house. Aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it, driven by the prospect of my mom's legendary barbecue and the opportunity to see Lily sing. They would swarm our backyard like ants to a picnic. With its well-maintained grass and large oak trees serving as the ideal backdrop, our backyard felt like a theater. Dad would light the grill, the air smelling of charcoal and sizzling meat, while Mom ran about ensuring everyone had a drink in hand. Aunt Marge would yell, "Lily, sweetie," her voice piercing the hubbub, "why don't you offer us a small song?" And all eyes would turn to my sister exactly like that. Lily hopped onto a chair, her golden curls bouncing and a cheeky sparkle in her eye. She would sharply clear her throat then. Magic, her warbling, trying her best Celine Dion impression, would go on endlessly. Like they were at a genuine concert, the adults would go crazy clapping and cheering. Dad would often wipe a tear from his eye. Mom and Dad would radiate pride. I would be off to the side attempting to fit in with the shrubs. It's not that I wanted to participate. Every time I opened my mouth to sing, it sounded like a cat being strangled. Poetry as well. Ignored about it. The words would knot on my tongue, leaving me stammering and red-faced. My relatives had murmured to me that I was rather unlike my sister. It was not only the relatives. Mom and Dad made it quite clear whose family star was. I was left to my own devices while Lily was being driven from dance courses to singing lessons to art seminars. Not that I really thought about it. The dusty ancient books on our shelf gave me comfort. Great Aunt Maggie seemed to understand the only person. She would find me nose buried in a book either behind the garage or up in the treehouse. Settling down next to me, "What adventure are you on today, Cameron?" she would inquire. I would search, appreciative of the interruption, showing her the cover of my most recent discovery. "Oh, just reading about ancient Egypt," I would say. Maggie would nod, her eyes glittering. "Girl, you have good head on your shoulders. Don't let anyone tell you different." Those times with Maggie felt to me like a salve for my spirit. She expected me to be only who I was, not someone else. With her, I could just be Cameron, the quiet, bookish girl who chose the piece of paper and ink over the tumult of family events. Though I loved such times, the hurt of being the ignored child would not be eliminated. My parents would show Lily compliments and gifts, new clothes, the newest devices, you name it, every time she mastered a new psalm or won another award. And me also. I sighed in annoyance and picked hand-me-downs. My refuge turned out to be school. Although I wasn't really Miss Popularity, in the classroom I discovered my flow. I was not happy to sit there and enable the teachings to flood me. No, I resolved myself to grasp every single item the professors mentioned. "Mrs. Thompson," I would say, my voice calm but firm after class, "could you once more clarify the section on mitosis?" I was not exactly clear about it. She would smile, clearly delighted by my involvement. "Of course, Cameron, why not we discuss it together?" I would seek book recommendations if a teacher was pressed for time. My rucksack soon began to bulge constantly with more reading materials. Staying late, I would go over those books, resolved to become proficient in every field. A lot of effort paid off. In high school, I had already risen to the position of class leader. Once upon a time, I excelled at something. Some other bookworms who were understanding of my introversion even became friends with me. Lily took over our home as graduation drew near. Her mother was her rock as she prepared her portfolio for admission to a posh university's advertising and public relations school. "Oh, honey, this campaign idea is perfect. The sight of Lily's creations would make Mom gushing. You're so talented." Then I'd just go into my room and start studying, rolling my eyes the whole time. But I finally lost it one night at dinner with my family when we were talking about Lily's college plans for the nth time. "I'm going to college, too." My speech came out in a dramatic fashion. I want to study management." Following this, there was an ear-piercing quiet. Then, much to my dismay and pain, they all started laughing. Mom responded, "Oh, sweetie," as she wiped away her tears. "Unfortunately, that is out of our budget. After you graduate, you should look for a job. As talented as your sister is, you simply aren't." The impact was as sharp as a slap. But I'm the top student in my class," I stammered, my face flushed with shame and wrath. "I get straight A's." I retreated to my room and returned with my report card, which I then slammed upon the table. With widening eyes of astonishment, they all leaned in to gaze. "Well, I'll be damned," Dad said, his head pressed against the concrete. "When did this happen?" "It's been happening for years," I cried out. "Not that any of you ever noticed." Even Mom could muster up the grace to appear embarrassed. "Cameron, we had no idea." Unfortunately, Dad interrupted her. "Listen, it has no effect. Lily's education has consumed all of our savings. Cameron, there is nothing more for you. I regret to inform you, but that is the truth. Upon finishing college, you will be employed at my cousin Frank's eatery." Ignoring their cries, I spun around and bolted. I hurriedly made my way upstairs to my room, where I pounded the door until it shook the walls. Something inside of me hardened as I flopped into my bed, sobbing uncontrollably. "All right," I thought to myself as I clenched my fists. "I will find a method if they refuse to assist me. I will demonstrate Cameron's abilities to everyone." A haze enveloped the subsequent months. The emotional farewells and jubilant embraces of Lily's parents preceded her departure for college. As for me, I dove headfirst into my studies, recommitting myself to being the best student in my class. Great Aunt Maggie and I spent an increasing amount of time together during this period. When things were tough at home, I would go to her little, quaint abode to relax. As we sipped our tea in her sunny kitchen one day, she finally posed the question I'd been dreading. "So, Cameron," she asked me with a kind look, "what are your plans after graduation?" I fought back tears as I peered into my teacup. "Aunt Maggie, I can't say for sure. My parents are not going to help me pay for college. After paying for Lily's tuition, they claim there is no money left." Maggie paused for a second before reaching across the table to give me a squeeze. "My husband has some savings, Cameron. For your college fund, I would want to provide them to you. You're incredibly intelligent, and I will not squander your genius." I was swept up by the reality of what she said. The combination of her kindness and the instant understanding that my dreams weren't dead caused me to cry uncontrollably. As I threw myself into her, I cried out, "Thank you. Thank you so much, Aunt Maggie." Months passed quickly, and I found myself carrying my diploma across the stage at graduation. Aunt Maggie's grin spread throughout the room as I looked around the audience. My parents were also present, and they were both pleased and uneasy. Mom strolled in that night as I flipped through college brochures. "Cameron, honey," she uttered with a lovely, syrupy voice. "Frank, who is a cousin of your father's, called. You can work as a waitress at his restaurant, according to him. What a thrilling prospect." I inhaled deeply. "Mom, I really don't think I'll need that job. College is in my future." Frowning, Dad stepped out of the doorway. "And how exactly do you plan to pay for that?" "Aunt Maggie is helping me," I boasted. "She's giving me her savings for tuition." It was nearly humorous how the startled stillness that ensued was preserved. Then I couldn't believe it as Dad's cheeks flushed with wrath. A resounding, "Absolutely not," came from him. "Maggie ought to give Lily her leftover cash. After she graduates next year, she'll need a car for her advertising job." Hearing this made no sense to me. "Are you serious?" I had to spit. "This is my chance to get an education, to make something of myself." "Cameron, try not to be so egocentric," Mom said. "Your sister needs that money more than you do." "No," I expressed with a trembling yet determined voice. "I am paying for my own college expenses with this money. let the conversation end. Things at home became intolerable after that. Either my parents paid me no mind at all, or they would get furious with me over nothing. There was an oppressive air of anxiety. I contacted Aunt Maggie sobbing after a particularly heated dispute and spilled the beans. "My darling, get ready to go," she exclaimed without hesitating. "You're moving in with me." As I watched my childhood home recede from view in the rearview mirror, I loaded up a cab the following day and traveled away. A burden was lifted from my shoulders as I approached Aunt Maggie's house. Amidst all the madness that was my summer of getting ready, I found myself walking onto the State University campus in no time. My acceptance into the management program of my dreams was a result of both my excellent academic performance and Aunt Maggie's kind support. I felt very weightless on the first day of class. Couldn't help but think I made it as I sat there, taking it all in during my introduction to business lesson. I am truly present. Also, Lily's senior year at her posh university was about to begin. Since I moved out, neither she nor my parents had communicated with me much, but I did my best to ignore it. The thrill of college life and my newfound independence consumed me. Then Aunt Maggie gave me a call in the middle of the semester. She spoke with a hint of hesitation and added, "Cameron, my dear, I believe you should sit down for this." When she told me about the family drama that I had been unaware of, my pulse quickened. Lily apparently surprised everyone by unexpectedly showing up at home to announce that she had dropped out of college. And why is that? A baby was on the way. Aunt Maggie said that Lily had been carefree throughout. She had reassured him. "Oh, don't worry," as she tossed her hair. "This baby's dad has a lot of money. Soon we will be exchanging wedding vows." Nevertheless, the story had only begun. Her lover was uncommitted, contrary to Lily's expectations. After he found out she had an affair with his friend also, things started to go downhill. They were still in the dark about the father's identity. After that, Aunt Maggie heaved a heavy sigh. As I tried to take it all in, I sat there with my phone placed against my ear. I experienced a mixed feeling of contentment. The glowing youngster had tumbled from her perch. Nonetheless, my primary emotion was one of sadness for Lily and the predicament she had placed herself in. Throughout the subsequent months, the drama persisted. Even though I stopped going to family events, Aunt Maggie nevertheless kept me apprised of all the latest rumors. A genetic test taken at the time of Lily's delivery verified that her boyfriend was, in fact, the biological father. However, he only consented to pay child support. Lily had hoped for a fairy tale wedding. The last straw was when my sister Lily, in her desperation for employment, accepted a position as a server at my Uncle Frank's restaurant, the identical job my parents had attempted to force me to do. A tornado of feelings swept over me as I hung up the phone. A little selfish part of me wanted to brag and show my family how successful I was. A deep sense of appreciation for my current situation and the progress I had made was the predominant emotion. The 4 years passed by in a flurry of classwork, finals, and studying late into the night. My management degree, which I had worked so hard for, was in my hand as I walked across the stage at graduation. Looking around the audience, I noticed Aunt Maggie's teary eyes as she grinned at me. I was able to secure a position as manager at the city's most esteemed restaurant, the Gilded Fork, because of my excellent grades and the enthusiastic recommendations of my teachers. The pay was above my wildest expectations, and I experienced a sense of accomplishment I had never before felt. I had a clear plan once I got my first paycheck. For Aunt Maggie, I swung by the electronics store and picked out the newest model of smartphone. As soon as I gave it to her, her expression brightened. "Oh, Cameron," she exclaimed. Her breath caught as she turned the sleek device over in her hands. "This is too much?" With a smile on my face, I reached for my own phone. "Absolutely not. Allow me to demonstrate its usage to you now." In the weeks that followed, I educated Aunt Maggie on all things related to social networking. She adapted quickly, particularly to Facebook's video feature, which she found very useful. Videos of her garden, cat, and the now famous apple pie were soon appearing on her page. While I was at lunch, I would watch her videos and constantly hit the like or comment button. It allowed us to remain in touch despite my hectic work schedule. My phone beeped at me once as I was getting dinner ready for the crowd. Took a quick look and was shocked to find my mom's name displayed. Our last conversation was years ago. "Cameron," she said with a hint of awkwardness, "we were hoping you might come over to talk." I nodded after a considerable interval. Standing on the doorstep of my boyhood home, I found myself that Sunday, my hand lingering over the doorbell. The door swung open just as I was about to push it. My mom yelled out, "Cameron," as she firmly embraced me. "Oh, sweetie, it's so good to see you." I presumed the young child to be my niece, and inside I discovered my dad, Lily, and a toddler. Tensions were high but not hostile, as I had anticipated. Dad remarked, "You look good, kiddo," in a rough yet friendly way. "We hear you're doing well for yourself." Nodding, I remained cautious. "Yes, I am. The Gilded Fork is now my boss." They were taken aback by the restaurant's name. Mom reeked of throat clearing. "That's gorgeous, my darling. We wanted to speak to you about it, in fact." They spent the next hour apologizing for their treatment of me and confessing they were mistaken to ignore my abilities. The true rationale for the get-together was then revealed. "Cameron," Lily's mother replied, "we were wondering if you might be able to help Lily get a job at your restaurant." While my sister was holding our daughter in her arms, I glanced over at her, her gaze averted from mine. "I'll do my best," I finally stated. "No promises, but I'll ask." Following through on my promise, I discussed Lily with Mr. Reeves, the proprietor of the eatery. I was taken aback when he consented to let her try her hand at administration. The week after that, Lily began. I was half expecting her to bomb or stir up trouble, but to my surprise, she did an outstanding job. Her clients adored her charisma and efficiency. I began to unwind whenever she was around as the weeks went by. We didn't become best friends, but we got along great at work. The universe threw me another curveball, this time a good one, right when I believed I had everything under control. Eventually, I was summoned to Mr. Reeves's office. Concern that I might have messed up caused my heart to beat. In its place, he flashed me a smile and remarked, "Cameron, how would you like to help me expand the business?" It wasn't long before I found myself presiding over the grand inauguration of not one, but 3 eateries. Meetings with coworkers, sampling food, and analyzing numbers took up much of my days. I had never experienced anything like it. It was both thrilling and draining. Because of the promotion and the accompanying raise, I now have more money than I can handle. My parents started calling at that point. It started off with little issues. "The roof is leaking," Mom would explain with a trace of hesitation in her voice. "We were wondering if you might be able to help out a little." Surprisingly, it felt great to answer yes and help them out with just a simple wire transfer of money. I found myself footing the bill for a full house remodel after starting with the roof and moving on to a new water heater. The notorious family parties resumed as their financial position improved, all because of my monthly payment. Things were different, though, when I went this time. "Have you heard about Cameron's latest project?" Grandma would brag to her extended family. "Downtown, she's launching a new eatery. What a remarkable achievement." From across the room, Lily would occasionally smile at me when I caught her eye. With her promotion to top administrator at the Gilded Fork, she was also doing really well. "My girls," Dad would exclaim, encircling us all with an arm, both of them making their old man proud. I wanted to hold on to my anger and remind them of how they treated me in the past, but I also enjoyed their warm acceptance, which I had longed for. I was overcome with happiness as I drove home that evening. After all these years, I finally achieved my lifelong goals, professional success, and the affection and support of my loved ones. I was no longer only the cherished golden kid. I was a strong, independent woman in my own right. Everything in my life came tumbling down on a Sunday afternoon while I was relaxing. Aunt Maggie's latest video popped up while I was enjoying my coffee and browsing Facebook. I had missed one of the family reunions because of work. Grinning from ear to ear, I pressed play, anticipating the customary joyous scenes. My heart raced at the sight I beheld instead. Pictured there, in vivid detail, were my parents, their cheeks flushed with pride and wine. Although her speech was slurred, Mom's furious gesticulations were easy to see. And Cameron, that ungrateful little freeloader, she was muttering, "Her generosity is just remarkable. You know, we don't have a lot of money." Dad interjected, his face flushed. "Yes, I understand. Thanks to Lily, we're thriving. She's the lifeblood of that posh eatery. Cameron merely follows in her footsteps." Several members of the family nodded in agreement as the film progressed, and a few even voiced their opinions. Seated in the corner, Lily appeared uneasy without directly challenging them. I remained motionless until the video concluded. In what ways could they manage to do so? Why would they go and say such horrible, false things after all I had done for them and the money I had given them? I trembled as I slid my cursor down to the remarks section. There I could see my parents' constant flow of texts. "Please remove this video immediately, Maggie. Posting this was completely unlawful. Demolish it right away." However, Aunt Maggie's reply caused me to cry uncontrollably. "Even if I knew how to remove movies, I still wouldn't. The truth about your treatment of Cameron needs to be seen by everyone. Is this your way of saying thank you for all the help she's given you? I am ashamed of both of you." For what seemed like an eternity, I watched the video again and again while reading the comments. The betrayal ripped at my heart, reopening scars I believed had healed. At last, I grabbed my phone and called Aunt Maggie. "Oh, Cameron, dear," she responded with a sympathetic tone. "I take it you've seen the video?" "Yeah," I whispered, my voice unearthly from sobbing. "Aunt Maggie, I still can't believe it. How were they able to do that?" As she responded, I could perceive the wrath in her voice. "This is how they've always been, Cameron. You simply haven't had the opportunity to witness it. Perhaps it's for the best that you found out this way. I'm sorry it happened to you. The truth should be revealed to you." As I went through my emotional roller coaster of astonishment, rage, and loss, Aunt Maggie chatted to me for hours and comforted me. I made a choice as dusk approached. "I'm cutting them off," I informed Aunt Maggie, my voice unwavering despite the anguish in my chest. "No more assistance, no more funding. They are now ready to lie down on their freshly made bed." Some of my most trying days came after the video's revelation. I couldn't bring myself to answer my parents' calls and messages, even though my phone buzzed nonstop. I couldn't stop thinking about how harsh and false their statements were. I finally sent them a short, frigid message after a week of no response. "I've watched the movie. I am aware of your true opinion of me. Never again will you contact me. At this point, all finances are off the table." Instantaneously, their replies poured in. Initially, they expressed regret. "Cameron, my darling, we deeply apologize. None of it was intended by us. We sincerely apologize." Their attitude shifted, though, as time went on and I remained silent. "We are the parents to you. Our debt is to you." I remained unwavering as each message further twisted the knife. After each opportunity I gave them, they turned the tables on me. The cycle needed to be broken. For whatever reason, Lily chose not to become involved. She was the epitome of a diligent worker and an asset to the company. She didn't seem resentful toward us if she felt that we had taken advantage of our parents financially. We kept in touch in a friendly but distant way. "I'm not taking sides," she informed me the day following a staff meeting. "It's between you and them." Although I really hoped she would defend me, I nodded in appreciation of her objectivity. I got it. She was already worried about her own child. Over the course of several weeks and months, I came to rely significantly on Aunt Maggie. The most enjoyable part of my week started with our Sunday video chats. As my life descended into complete anarchy, she would bring some much-needed order by regaling me with tales of her garden or her most recent foray into baking. She would reassure me, "You're doing the right thing, Cameron," whenever I started to question. Don't let them manipulate you anymore. Even more unexpectedly, other relatives started getting in touch as well. Sarah, my cousin, who had always been welcoming at our family reunions, wrote me a touching email. "I watched the movie. You are incredible, Cameron, and I just wanted you to know that. Your accomplishments and the positive impact you've had on others are truly remarkable. Nobody has the right to tell you differently." I received an unexpected call from Uncle Bob, who is Dad's brother. "You have matured into an extraordinary woman, and I have witnessed it, my dear. Your parents are completely deluded if they fail to see your unique worth. Your loved ones are rooting for you. Keep it in mind." My broken heart felt better after reading these offers of encouragement. Even though I had to say goodbye to my parents, I had found a family who loved and accepted me just the way I was. In the last days of the year, Mr. Reeves summoned me to his office. I walked in anxious, wondering if the stress from my personal life had impacted my productivity. He instead grinned widely and proclaimed, "Next year, Cameron, I will be retiring. Please assume the role of Chief Executive Officer of the restaurant chain." Froze in place, frozen in shock. At long last, I choked out, "Are you sure?" With a twinkle in his eye, he nodded. "In all my years, I've never been more certain about anything. Cameron, this is yours for the taking. This business has thrived because of you. You need to step up and take charge." A startling realization dawned on me as I departed from his office, my mind whirling with many possibilities. A woman who had grown from a tiny girl who had been disregarded and undervalued had surpassed not only everyone's but even her own expectations.